Pastor Roy Gearhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. I've been loving this study in the book of Galatians, just a small passage in Galatians 5, verses 13 through 26, where we've been getting this message of freedom, a freedom that allows us to be freed to make choices in our life. There are a lot of people who just don't believe that they've got the power to really make choices in their life. They feel like they are either driven by some internal needs and wants and even just out of control desires in themselves that lead to addictions and to outbursts of emotion. Some people feel like they have just no control over that they just have to live according to all of those different pushes that come from within, or they feel like they're just controlled on the outside by what everyone expects, by the rules and the laws of life, whether they're written laws that a police officer would apply in your life, or just the things that your mother would apply in your life by saying, don't do this, or your spouse or somebody else in your job site, that we're just hemmed in by all of those kinds of controllers in our life. And so that a lot of people really do not feel like they have the freedom to really make choices in their life about what they need to do, what they really desire, how can they really choose how to live. But this is where God is working in our lives to produce a freedom that actually empowers us to live in a way that we can make those decisions, not dominated by what it calls the flesh or our sinful nature, our own natural desires and drives that push us from within, nor just controlled by a set of rules or by the expectations and guidelines that God and people and all of these circumstances put on our life, but actually changed from within. How does this work? Well, it works through the power of God's Holy Spirit dwelling in you. And so that what God is working to produce in our lives is this, a change that is not just a set of parameters in a rule book for you and I to be set between these bumper pads where it's like, oh, you can do this and you can do that, but you can't do this. Instead, what God is doing is actually coming to dwell within us so that the real power of Christ can be in you, and His Holy Spirit can motivate and animate in your life the nature of God, the will and the purpose of God, really formed though in the character and nature of God, because God is now dwelling in you. His Holy Spirit dwelling in you now is able to begin to work that within you. So here's the picture. Instead of you and I being driven and not being able to be in control of our emotions and our choices and our drives, that we just feel like we have to do all of those things, we're now being empowered to be in charge and to say, no, I've chosen to live according to the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God now is empowering me. I'm making choices in my life in accordance with God's will and purpose, and that is beginning to redirect my life. But that can turn into nothing but just kind of the rule book sort of application. But the difference is this. With the Holy Spirit working in you, instead of it just being a capitulation to God's rules as opposed to our own drives, the Holy Spirit working in you begins to motivate and enliven you and I to actually act in love. Not just a set of rules that says, do this and don't do that, because this is loving, and that's not. But instead, something formed in you and me that is finally empowering us to actually act in love, with patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, goodness, self-control. To actually have the power to live through God's Spirit with all of those things just now growing and just coming forth in your life like it's natural. And those things are not always natural to us. Our natural drives often pull us into a very selfish, very destructive way of life. But now, with the Holy Spirit being in charge, guiding you, being the source of your motive, your drive, your priorities, the Holy Spirit is forming this in you so that this grows in you like fruit. It starts to become natural to live in the nature of God because God is in you. His Spirit in you is now enlivening you to this whole new course of action. What a difference. Not just ramrodded by rules, not just driven by our own internal wants and desires that sometimes make us crazy, but living in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, self-control. May God bless you. And as you share this good news today, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.